President Trump's former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, will be in court today as first trial related to special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation is scheduled to begin. Manafort faces financial fraud charges tied to money he received from a Russia-backed political party in Ukraine.
If he's convicted, Manafort could serve life in prison. The issue of the Trump campaign's possible collusion with Russia is not expected to be part of this trial. But the president tweeted earlier today, quote, "Collusion is not a crime, but that doesn't matter because there was no collusion." CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reid is outside of the courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia. So, Paula, Manafort's attorney told you today that there is no chance that he will cooperate or take a plea deal. Can you give us just some more details about what Manafort is accused of?
That's right. He is accused of bank fraud. The allegation is that he made tens of millions of dollars lobbying on behalf of pro-Russia Ukrainian politicians, but failed to disclose all of that income to the IRS and instead spent it allegedly on real estate, cars, even clothes as a way to launder that money. So as you noted, this doesn't have anything to do with Russian interference in the campaign, but this is something that they came across in their investigation. Special counsel was hoping to pressure Manafort into being a cooperating witness into the overall Russia investigation, but so far he has refused to cooperate. He has refused to enter a plea deal like many of the other people who have been charged in this case have done, and he is going to fight this through trial here in Alexandria. Once this trial is over, he has another trial in Washington in the fall.
Paula, I just want to note that there are a very few number of protesters behind you. They're holding up signs that say, "Lock him up." I don't know if it looks like a small crowd to you, if you're seeing other protesters from where you are, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of people back there.
There's not. Last time I looked, I'm going to look again over my shoulder so I don't repeat anything inaccurate. A couple of them, it looks like they went for coffee earlier. There were about 10 of them. They have temporarily stopped playing their drums, but they do have their signs. And we've actually seen a lot of this during some of the arraignments and pleas and some of the other folks in this case. You've seen people with signs and people yelling things, mostly "lock him up," something like that, in front of the courthouse. So it's not a huge group of protesters, but I would say there are about 10 to 12 folks here over the course of the morning, but they're definitely outnumbered by us, the press.
So Paul Manafort is the first Trump associate to go to trial. He's the only American charged thus far who's going to take the case to trial. What's at stake for special counsel Robert Mueller with this?
Well, there's so much at stake here, both for special counsel Robert Mueller and for President Trump. While President Trump is not on trial here, we don't even expect his name to be uttered. He has, of course, called the special counsel investigation a, quote, witch hunt and been very critical of this investigation. So if there is a conviction in this case, that would really undercut his argument that this is a witch hunt. So far, prosecutors have put forth a mountain of evidence about this alleged conduct by Mr. Manafort. But if for some reason there is not a conviction or only a partial conviction here, that's going to be a significant blow to special counsel. We'll see in the court of public opinion. So there's a lot riding for both sides on this particular trial. And like I said, there will be another prosecution of Paul Manafort on similar charges in Washington, D.C. in the fall.
Paula, as you know, former Trump campaign advisor and Manafort's business partner Rick Gates is expected to testify against him. What role could he play in the trial?
Well, it's certainly not good news when your co-defendant, the person you were charged with in a conspiracy on pretty much every single count, when that person agrees to testify against you, that's a big problem. And that's what happened here, because Richard Gates and Paul Manafort, they were charged together for some of their alleged business dealings and laundering this money, allegedly. Gates and Manafort, originally, they both pleaded not guilty. They said they were going to fight these charges. But once Gates and his family, sources tell me, once he really assessed the emotional toll this would take on his family and the enormous cost of fighting something like this, he was not willing to sort of push through and hope for a presidential pardon the way Manafort is. So he's going to be able to go there and he's going to be able to testify on the stand to pretty much every single aspect of this case. This is going to be a very detrimental witness for Paul Manafort. But again, even though both of these men worked on the campaign, there's no expectation that either one of them will even mention the Trump campaign.
So you mentioned, there's this devastating witness against Paul Manafort. This is sort of a paper trail case. There's a lot of sort of documents. So the likelihood of Paul Manafort being convicted may be high. I'm just speculating. But if he is convicted, could the president pardon him?
Yes, absolutely. It is likely that he will be convicted based on the evidence that we've seen now. Like you said, this is a business crime. He has already been incarcerated, which is extremely unusual in a white-collar case like this. but some of his conduct, allegedly tampering with witnesses, gave the judges concern that he could be a flight risk or otherwise try to tamper with this investigation. Oftentimes you don't try to tamper with a witness if you don't expect to be convicted. But if he is convicted here in Virginia and or convicted in the District of Columbia later this year, he absolutely could be pardoned by the president. And sources close to the case tell me that Paul Manafort is fighting this case because he is banking on a presidential pardon if he is convicted. Now, the president's attorneys, they have said that no one should proceed with the expectation that they would get a pardon. But I think if you look at a lot of public comments the president has made about other people that he believes were the target of politically motivated federal investigations, Rod Blagojevich, Martha Stewart, and others, he said that he would offer them pardons because he believes they were unfairly treated. It is likely that he could potentially apply the same standard to his former campaign chairman, Paul Manafort. We asked the president about this at a gaggle at the White House a couple of weeks ago, and he just said, look, I think that Paul Manafort is being unfairly treated. There you go. Same exact words. So I think in some ways he is signaling that he would be open to a pardon, even if the official party line from his attorneys is that no one has been promised anything.
Very interesting. Well, Paul Manafort said he is not going to cooperate, so maybe he's crossing his fingers as well. Paula Reid, thank you.